priority access to semiconductors and storage is being pulled towards AI data centers, leaving enterprise and SMB technology buyers fighting over what's left. What are you telling your customers? What are you telling your IT and AV customers?
If everyone goes out and just starts buying right now and stockpiling, it's going to be a problem. So in general, don't panic.
We mustn't panic. We mustn't panic.
What chip and memory shortages mean for the products that you buy, the connectivity of the future. And Panasonic claims they have a new light source for projection. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 752, recorded Friday, January 16th, 2026. Don't panic. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest news and stories in the AV and the IT world. We have an acquisition, because of course we do, new light source, and people moving around. First up, Ricoh is expanding deeper into the integration and services side of the AV business, announcing the acquisition of U.S.-based integrator Presentation Products, Inc., also known as PPI. This is another strong signal that major manufacturers and platform companies aren't just thinking about devices anymore, they're thinking about full deployment, or at least Ricoh is. Design, deployment, and ongoing support. For end users, that usually means more bundled solutions. For integrators, it's another reminder that the competitive landscape keeps getting more competitive and is moving towards managed services and recurring relationships. Next up, Shure has announced the formation of a new strategic alliance team built to strengthen partnerships, expand its ecosystem, and drive transformation across global markets. Now, this is right ahead of ISE 2026, which, of course, we will be there. Shure says the team will focus on deeper alliances with technology partners, stronger ecosystem engagement, and enabling transformative partnerships that open revenue streams and accelerate adoption. It's an awful lot of words there. The new group will be led by Boris Siebert, joining from Logitech, and includes new team members with backgrounds from companies like Zoom, HP, Jabra, and others. Third story, Panasonic is set to unveil a new projection light source platform, signaling more innovation in the projection category as AV teams keep balancing brightness, reliability, energy efficiency, and long-term operational cost. This matters because projection hasn't exactly gone away. It is moving towards higher performance, really niche applications, and still pretty popular in the higher education spaces. It's also in live events, houses of worship, and large venue installs. Now, we will have to see whether or not this is a core new tool set for them. Next up, here's one that sits right at the intersection of sports production and immersive media. Real Madrid has been filmed for Apple Vision Pro. Bet you didn't think you'd ever hear that term again, Apple Vision Pro, using more than 100 cameras. It's a massive capture workflow, and it highlights what it takes to produce immersive content at scale. Now, not just a new camera move, but a new pipeline, storage, processing, stitching, distribution, and ultimately creating a viewer experience that's worth the effort. Now, whether Vision Pro becomes mainstream or not, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. Bigger point of this is this. Spatial content is actually now part of the conversations, and the sports world is clearly experimenting, especially as they are trying to create more and more unique experiences, both in the game, at the stadium, as well as folks at home. Finally, a quick people section. Quite frankly, it's worth mentioning two of these moves. First, PSNI Global Alliance has announced its 2026 Board of Directors, calling it a globally representative leadership group guiding strategy and expansion as PSNI heads into its 40th year. Now, key roles include Jeremy Elsesser from Level 3. President, he is the chairman. The president of the board is Jeff Davis from Avadex. Vice president is Bill Chamberlain from Varex. And secretary treasurer is Megan Stasio from Data Projections. Also, director at large, Samantha Hahn from PCC. Now, here's the thing. Both Elsesser and Samantha Hahn I have known for years. They have both been guests on AV Week, and they are both fantastic. PSNI also noted they'll be marking their 40th anniversary this year, with the largest ISE presence to date in Barcelona. Second person people thing, Extron has hired industry veteran and longtime AVNation friend Kirsten Nelson as its new PR manager, adding more depth to communication at a time when product messaging and market education matter more than ever. I could not be happier for Kirsten and for our friends over at Extron. But yeah, Nelson's just freaking fantastic. So congratulations to her and the folks over at Anaheim. That is your AV news. Stick around for this week's Roundtable, where we will look at how chip and memory shortages are going to impact the AV products that you buy and how much you pay for them, and also looking to the connectivity of the future. This is AV Week.
Hey listeners, it's your AV sneakerhead, Jennifer Weaver. Listen to AV Career Masterminds, where I chat all things job-related in the audio-visual industry. You can find AV Career Masterminds where you subscribe to podcasts.
All right, welcome back. Now we bring in our fantastic round table to talk about, a couple of very interesting topics. First and foremost, Kelly Teal, welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, as always.
All right, good to see you. Happy New Year. I'll be saying that for the next 6 weeks as we bring in our regulars back through the rounds. Erica Carroll, good to see you, ma'am.
Good to see you too, Tim. Thanks.
And a young man who spent an entire day with me in Chicago and then filmed it, Nathan Catino. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Great to see you guys.
And where can people see you and me doing karaoke? And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Oh, you can go to LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn. You can definitely find it in my feed, or you can go to YouTube and look for the show called Seasoned Baggage. Quite clever of a name, Tim, I think.
It was. It was. Much better than AVNation. So
This is true. I didn't want to get sued, too. So
that's an inside joke. You have to go watch the program for that. All right. First story from AV Magazine. A new warning is circling the AV market. The rapid acceleration of AI projects. Good God. Last week I said it's only the first show of the week and I'm already doing AI. It's going to be here for a minute, kids. AI projects could create another wave of supply chain disruption, a term I thought I was done with during the pandemic, potentially returning in 2026. The concern is that priority access to semiconductors and storage, meaning memory storage, hard drives, not hard drive storage, but memory storage, is being pulled towards AI data centers, leaving enterprise and SMB technology buyers fighting over what's left. For AV, that could mean longer lead times, unpredictable availability, and pricing instability across everything from endpoints to processing and infrastructure, especially for projects that have already tight budgets and tight deadlines and fixed budgets and tight budgets, quite frankly. Kelly, we're going to start with you on this, since you are kind of the leading edge of the design side. If shortages do return, I guess the best way to ask is what is the best option here? First of all, do they rush you and say, get your design quicker so we can purchase this stuff now while it's still ostensibly on the shelf, even though AV doesn't have shelves? Or do we prolong the design process, prolong the RFP process, and hope and pray to God that this kind of blows over?
Kind of both, because prolonging is almost never an option, right? So here's the short answer. We should be aware and proactive, but it's not a sky is falling situation. So what's happening right now is that these AI data centers are soaking up massive amounts of chip and memory capacity, especially high-end memory and processors. So the chip manufacturers are prioritizing those AI workloads because they're higher margin and long-term contracts. And I know this from working on several data centers currently. Now, even though most AV and enterprise IT teams aren't buying AI GPUs, we're still affected indirectly. So because a lot of the same memory and silicon goes into everyday things that we do buy. So like PCs, servers, AV endpoints, control processors, signage players, collaboration devices, and so on. And so what we're seeing in the market already, at least what I'm seeing in the market already, is we are seeing those rising prices, especially for memory and shortage, longer lead times, and for certain hardware, vendors building cost increases into refresh cycles. And the key thing to understand is this isn't just a temporary COVID style shortage. This is more of a structural shift with AI infrastructure being permanently taking a bigger slice of semiconductor production, right? So we were already kind of behind, and then now this is happening. So what do AV and IT managers do? They plan procurement earlier than you used to, expect some inflation in hardware refresh budgets, and communicate that, lock pricing when possible, keep spares for mission critical systems, and avoid relying on a single vendor or SKU if possible, which is my go-to solution. And the bottom line being, you don't need to panic, but you also need to plan smarter. And that involves a multitude of things. So teams that think ahead on procurement and lifecycle management are going to ride this out just fine. The ones that wait until the last minute are going to feel the pain. So it's kind of it's depending on how you approach situation.
Well, it sounds to me like waiting till the last minute is not the solution at all. And what you just said was get in line early, get your stuff done early, and then, batten down the hatches and plan for the worst.
Mm-hmm. That was my polite way of saying don't wait till the last minute.
Sometimes that is not an option, and I'm looking at you, higher education, especially you wonderful community college folks that I came from. So, because in the state school system in the States, y'all are last in line, and I know that because I was there. Erica, same kind of question here is what Kelly said, right? Where buying spares, a little bit of over ordering right now. But doesn't that kind of exacerbate the problem for everybody else who can't get in line early?
Yeah, I think it's more of that AI isn't just changing the way that we approach software and everything being AI enabled, but it's reshaping the way hardware is. And unfortunately, we are still a bunch of black boxes. And I think we have an opportunity to think about our hardware more like IT when it comes to long-term component strategy. And I think it's a challenge in forecasting too, right? When I left the last manufacturer I was at and they're building new product and thinking about the components that go into it, I think it's a bigger forecasting play for them, figuring out not just how many units they can sell and having more pieces on the shelf, but also what components are really, truly necessary to our boxes. In the article that you shared also, it said something about, 97% of those data centers are already spoken for, and there's that extra 3%. So if that's something that you're forecasting in your future product line, absolutely you need to start getting in line if you need, that the space in those data centers, knowing that they're already at capacity, and it's probably going to be a while before more are built at scale.
Nathan and I have something in common. He and I have recently built with or for our children a PC, gaming PC. I did mine in September last year, and at the time, I actually upgraded my son's memory to double because it's his first gaming PC. And I remember my first gaming PC, and I quickly went out and purchased more storage shortly after uploading it with Steam and Half-Life 1, and then that is how old I am. But Nathan, I went just because I'm curious, and Christian, my son, sent me the link to Micro Center. The exact same memory that we purchased in September is now 3 times as much. So, what are you telling your customers? What are you telling your IT and AV customers? Is it to, get all the Logi gear you can right now, because we've got this on stock, in stock, and it's this price, but good God, in a year it might be this price. How are you advising your folks?
So one, I'd like to follow Kelly on this one. Just don't panic, right? It's you have to kind of do things with grace here because Number one, it is going to affect everyone in AV. Right? There's no doubt about this. Yes, it's PCs and servers, everything else, but DRAM goes into literally almost all the video bars I can think of.
Yep.
So it will affect future production. We've been blessed with having stock all over the world, so we don't have that issue. But to Erica's point, if everyone goes out and just starts buying right now and stockpiling, it's going to be a problem. I think the few customers that are thinking longer term, they're doing a massive rollout. They have 16 locations they have to do. Will the hardware be there at the right price? Because it's not just the price. It's also, will the stock be available? Right now, you're battling two different issues. Because if you can't put the DRAM in a bar, the bar will not exist, right? So that's a whole nother problem. But rather than going out and buying every single thing you can find, you also have to kind of factor in where it's going to be stored and how much it's going to cost to store all that gear, because it has to be somewhere secure. Not everyone has massive warehouses to put all this stuff into. No. And sometimes I would argue storing that somewhere, the cost of that might actually cost more than what it will cost when the cost of RAM goes up in these bars. So in general, we're also saying, listen, buy for what you need, right? At some point, if you've got a massive project and you're doing 3,000 rooms, clearly that 3% or 5%, whatever the price goes up, when those prices of that equipment goes up, it may break your project, right? So start thinking that through. But for the most part, the large customers, I think they already have a plan. They've navigated some of these things. It is the small to medium customers that may be saying, hey, listen, I know I'm going to do 5 rooms in the fall and it's going to cost X, but they're so tightly wound on the price that, yeah, they may want to buy it now, because if it's going to be $2 or $3 or $5 or $10,000 over what their budget is, that might actually break their project. So in general, don't panic. That's what I'm saying. And that's what we're saying to most customers. But I think we're all going to suffer this, where it's, prices will be affected.
If you are stockpiling, do you think that how quickly technology is evolving, that stockpile will actually last you and to fit into the products that you need for the future?
I don't think so in video. I think it really depends on how obsolete the technology is going to be. Like for video bars, and that's our primary focus area right now, is video bars and boards and things like that. Just as an example, Meetup, which got upgraded a year and a half ago, there are still a lot of customers buying the older Meetup. It just fits the customer profile. It fits their standard. So I think plus or minus a year is pretty normal for things that come out. Oh, some customers just don't want to buy the latest and greatest because they have a global standard. So for those customers, I don't think stockpiling is going to create much of an issue. But if you're stockpiling beyond 2 years, 3 years, that could be, you could end up with a bunch of obsolete gear. And I know that sometimes happens in large companies where they buy a lot and it sits on the warehouse floor for quite a while until they figure out it's 3.5 years old and they don't want to deploy it anymore. I hope that's not happening anymore, but I have seen customers do that. But in general, I think plus or minus 1 or 2 years, when it becomes obsolete or a newer version comes out, I think it still gets used for the most part. At least we've seen that in our numbers.
There was a little bit of that happening during the pandemic. The the positive side of that is that nobody was developing new product during the pandemic, so it didn't matter anyway, right? You could stockpile because, to Nathan's point, there wasn't a new version coming out because nobody could get the components anyway. Here's a different scenario. They are developing. It's just going to cost more. So
I want to correct you on that one, at least from Logitech's perspective. I think it was 18 or 27 different products that came out, developed and came out during the pandemic.
You guys were special. So, what do you want a sticker?
Just saying a lot. Well, to be fair, there were products coming out, but I agree. In general, it was slower, right?
In general, it was definitely slower. Here's the thing. On the U side, it was slower, but it wasn't non-existent. On the AV side, it wasn't non-existent, but good God, it was really close to non-existent. Yeah.
I think back orders alone are painful during the pandemic.
All right. From the Rave Pubs, Extron has expanded its Nav Pro AV over IP lineup. Not going to talk about AV over IP today. We are going to talk about the connections on this device. USB-C, HDMI, and AV over IP, IE, and RJ45 or CAT category cable or whatever you want to call it. Here's the thing with this, right? This is more about the signal flow than anything, and that's what we're going to discuss. Erica, from your perspective, and you worked with manufacturers, you worked with higher education folks, end users. The simple way to ask this is, what is the connection of the future? What is the signal flow of the future? Understanding that there's no one right answer today, because I was messing around with DVI in 1999 and 2000, and it's still available, right? VGA is still available.
Yeah, I would challenge it's like, if even though we have it, should we? Like, yes, we can build it, but should we?
I can find you a couple of curmudgeon-y propeller heads that would 100% argue VGA.
I'm sure. So I think that for sure HDMI is the most common and understood and most supported connector in Pro AV, and it took a long time. And I know that in the beginning, people really said that, I don't know if HDMI is going to take off, and it absolutely did. But that's on our industry side. I think that USB-C is going to be the expectation on the user side because it's what they know, it's what they trust. It's on their laptops and tablets and phones, and it does all of the things for them. It does data and it does power. And I think that there's HDMI and USB-C both need to be accounted for in designing in the future. And I think we're already there, right? HDMI is just the standard and USB-C is the unavoidable, inevitable outcome out of all of that. However, it is also the most misunderstood connector because there's nothing universal about it.
Yeah. Let me ask a question really quickly. To quote an old friend of mine, Kevin Iselli, we are all coin operated, including manufacturers, or especially manufacturers. If the end user is expecting that, should USB-C then not be the default? Because if the end customer is the one driving that conversation, and I'll quote another friend of mine, Bradford, who from a Harman standpoint, back when he worked for Harman, the reason that Harman still had VGA connectors in 2019 is because their customers kept asking for them.
When we talk about connectivity, especially over the next few years, I would say that the answer isn't specifically HDMI or USB-C. It's HDMI and USB-C riding on top of IP. So HDMI and USB-C are going to remain the dominant edge connections, but because that's what users do bring to the table. Their laptops, their tablets, their cameras, their devices aren't moving away from them anytime soon, whether we like it or not. What is changing is how those signals move through the building. The real shift is towards AV over IP platforms like the NAV ecosystem from Extron, where HDMI and USB-C become inputs, not limitations. By adding that USB-C input and switching into the NAV platform, manufacturers are acknowledging reality that designers need flexibility to support local switching, USB data, and streaming all within the same system. So the smart way to design going forward is to stay format agnostic at the edge, standardize on the IP in the middle, and then design infrastructure, conduit, bandwidth, switching that can evolve. And this is a conversation I just had today with a client. So if you design for HDMI and USB-C today, but build the backbone for IP, you're future-proofing without betting on a single connector winning. So that's what gives designers real options over the next decade, in my opinion.
See, this is why I like having Kelly on, because she just had this conversation today. I couldn't tell you the last time I had this conversation. Coutinho, you're sitting over there shaking your head.
I was just going to say, I love that answer because you're absolutely right. It's like you're separating transport and connectivity, right? And transport, just getting it from point A to point B. I mean, we just for, obviously for video conferencing, but we actually make an extender as well for USB-C to connect all those peripherals together and then use IP as a transport. And that's what they're doing here too. But they also have HDMI. Now I'll bring a different perspective to this. I always felt like desktop production and studio production, I was fine with USB-C. It's just easier. It's easier to figure out. But I think Erica said it. There's so many versions of USB-C. There's nothing universal about it. So it's really frustrating. And I've actually switched now to HDMI. One, because the Rodecaster video needs HDMI inputs. But you know what? What's great about HDMI, you plug it in and it just freaking works. You don't have to worry about the transport of the cable or high speed or not high speed. All that stuff just goes away. And now I've standard everything on HDMI. My outputs from Rodecaster, HDMI inputs are, every kit I'm building is all HDMI. Yes, of course, you have to route the audio still separately. It's a whole different issue. But it at least works. With USB-C, I could do it with that. But like you said, there's different inputs. The way it receives it back into your device is different. So I think it's great that they're doing it. I think this is great that they're doing both different options. So end users, whether it's an end user or if it's an AV person, they can figure out what to input. As long as they input it, they get the compatibility. And then to Kelly's point, it's just transport, right? That back-end transport gets it to wherever it needs to go on the other side. So I think this is great. I think it's a great move.
All right. The one slight, and this is Tim being an old curmudgeon AV guy. The bad thing about HDMI is the same thing that has been the bad thing about HDMI for 25 years. There is no locking connector. There is no locking connector. There are third-party devices you can do, and you can get around it, and there's a handful of them on the market. But yeah, I think that was the biggest complaint of most AV pros in the early 2000s, that an HDMI came from consumer, and we all just kind of felt salty in general about that. It's like, no, like we have connectors, and they're locking, and they're fine. And the HDMI consortium said, nope, we're going to do this because we've got Disney and, Fox and everybody else under the sun behind us. So, all right, if you're ever really, if you get insomnia and you want to get a cure for that, look up the history of the HDMI connector, and it will put you to sleep. All right, that's
By the way, I'm not as well versed about this as you are, seems like it, but I'm just trying to think of every time I use a DisplayPort connector, I always forget that I have to push on it to release it. I can see
which is
everyone in my
lovely
family.
For the record.
It's great, but I can see all my family members breaking it every time because they just don't know. They'll just keep yanking and then break the port. So maybe that's the reason why they did it that way. I'm not saying that I like one or the other. I'm just saying I think that may be the reason why, because it's frustrating sometimes.
That is fair. And I have been known to forget that myself from time to time. Just saying. All right, that's it for today. It has been a weird week, and I have no idea. Kelly Teal, thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you?
I am only on LinkedIn under Kelly Teal.
All right, very good. Ms. Erica Carroll, how do people connect with you? And quite frankly, where can they find you out in the real wide world?
So you can connect with me in all the social places at the Erica Carroll, or theericacarroll.com will take you to my LinkedIn. And you can find me at ISE in just a couple weeks. I'll be walking around, no stand to exhibit in, but I'll be at plenty of other events and walking around, and I'd love to meet people. So
yeah, and if you are part of the AV user group, you can find her at some of those locations here in 2026. So.
I will be at the AV user group events, the speed pitches and all of that as well at ISE.
All right, very good. Mr. Catino, before we get to you, Logitech has an announcement this week. What are you guys talking about?
So we got a big announcement. It's on the 22nd. Hopefully, Tim, you can actually add the link. I'm going to call you Tom from now on.
Oh my God.
If you can add the link to the event, it's our next up event. We have some major news coming up, and it will be also shown at ISE. By the way, 2K100. And since you didn't ask me, but I'll answer it anyway, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's usually the place where I seem to live. Let's face it, we all of us are like that now. But if you're at ISE, please come say hi. 2K100.
Yeah, except at 2:00 on Tuesday, he's busy. Nathan and I are filming some stuff with our buddy Craig. So, but yeah, that'll be fun. For me, for Tim Albright, don't follow me anywhere. If you're interested in things that I write about that have nothing to do with the industry, have nothing to do with technology, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. How about that? You can do that. So I've been doing some stuff there. But go by the website if you would, please, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. We have a brand new AVNation special looking at the science of sound. This is not Tim Smart. It is with the people at Atlas IED. So I have smart people on who know about the science of sound. It is not me. I just ask them dumb questions and they continue to answer me. Also hitting the road this year, quite a lot actually. We will be, of course, in Barcelona covering ISE 3rd through the 6th of February. And the very next week, I am doing the keynote at all the Alamo E4s. First one is Anaheim, February 10th, which is the Tuesday right after ISE, and then in DC on March 17th. You can register for both of those at e4experience.com. But go by the website if you would, please, avnation.tv. That is avnation.tv. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation. Hello, this is Steve Greenblatt, host of AVNation's A State of Control podcast. Each month, Rich Fregosa and I explore trending topics related to control, programming, and automation in the audiovisual industry. We speak with a variety of AV professionals who share their perspectives, knowledge, and experiences. Please join us for this monthly conversation. Check out A State of Control on avnation.tv or wherever you get your podcasts.